If you grew up in the 1970s or 1980s, the chances are very good that you also grew up watching the movies of British film director Kevin Connor. He guided the last of the Amicus anthologies as well as the last Amicus movie before the company shut its doors. Kevin Connor is best remembered for his fantastic quintet of kid-friendly adventure fantasies about dinosaurs, lost worlds, and magic carpets. Sadly, these minor genre masterpieces are now forgotten. Let's go back to the fabulous 1970s and explore the science fiction cinema of Kevin Connor.
Initiate sequence. Retrotron Entertainment presents
That 70s Nerd. I explore the hidden depths of 1970s pop culture, from movies and television to books, comics, and magazines, music, toys, and technology. Discover forgotten classics and hidden gems you will not find anywhere else with That 70s Nerd. Amicus Productions, a British film company, left a lasting mark on the history of genre cinema. Founded in the early 1960s by American producers Milton Subotsky and Max J. Rosenberg, Amicus carved a unique niche for itself, often overshadowed by its more famous counterpart, Hammer Films. Subotsky and Rosenberg, driven by a passion for horror and science fiction, saw an opportunity to create distinctive films in a market dominated by Hammer's gothic monster movies. Amicus's most famous contribution to cinema was undoubtedly its horror anthologies. These films, comprising several short stories tied together by a framing narrative, became the studio's trademark. In the 1970s, Amicus turned their attention to the popular genres of science fiction and fantasy. These unique films were notable for the visual FX talent behind the camera, faithfulness to source material, mostly culled from the pages of Edgar Rice Burroughs, and especially for their reliance on American television actor Doug McClure. McClure and his Amicus films inspired the classic Simpsons character Troy McClure. A veteran of the entertainment business by the 1970s, McClure's rugged good looks and natural charm caught the attention of casting directors early in his career, and he soon found himself taking on various roles, particularly in westerns. McClure's breakthrough role was Trampas in the NBC Western series The Virginian. The show, which aired from 1962 to 1971, became a significant hit. As Trampas, McClure showcased his ability to blend charm and toughness, making the character a favorite among audiences. But McClure is best remembered for his quartet of science fiction retro adventure movies from the 1970s, years before Raiders of the Lost Ark. Amicus, along with producer John Dark and director Kevin Connor, brought the thrill of pulp action to modern cinema. The Land That Time Forgot, 1974. The Land That Time Forgot is a cult classic that has fascinated genre movie enthusiasts for decades. Its inception began with the adaptation of Edgar Rice Burroughs' 1924 novel of the same name. The novel's blend of science fiction and adventure made it an ideal candidate for a cinematic experience that would captivate audiences with its imaginative storytelling and charming visuals. The film starred Doug McClure, his first collaboration with Connor. Director Kevin Connor had this to say about McClure: "I didn't even think I was going to get Doug McClure. Doug was fantastic. We became great friends over the years, and he married our secretary at Pinewood Studios. Doug taught me a lot about American-style action, how to throw punches, and so on. He always knew where the camera was, and it was always very interesting just watching him work." Filming The Land That Time Forgot presented unique challenges, particularly in realizing the prehistoric world. The production team, led by director Kevin Connor, opted for in-camera effects, a staple of early cinema, especially in the silent era. Miniature models, puppetry, and animatronics were employed to create the film's dinosaurs and other creatures. These techniques already falling behind newer VFX technology such as smoother stop-motion animation, compositing, and computer-controlled camera and imagery contributed significantly to the movie's charm and have been a point of nostalgia and fascination for fans. Connor later recalled, "We planned it all well in advance. You've got to be pliable to jump this way or that way. When you spot things happening, you can throw in another line while taking one out to fine-tune it. I was fairly confident. You're always a bit nervous because you're responsible for a certain amount of money, but I felt very comfortable with all the people around me, like producer John Dark, who gave me full support. There was a lot of pre-filming of the dinosaurs on front projection plates, storyboards, and things. The visual effects team faced the daunting task of making the impossible seem real. They had to create a believable prehistoric landscape on a limited budget. The sets were designed to reflect the diverse environments described in Burroughs' novel, from dense jungles to eerie caves. The use of cyclorama background paintings and foreground miniatures played a significant role in establishing the film's distinct visual style. Concerning the VFX, Connor recalled later, "Derek Meddings was one of the greatest visual effects men. Early in the film, he made such a simple shot look expensive. John McHenry is looking through the periscope, and you see a boat off in the distance. All that is a photograph, blown up to like 6 feet long and pasted on a board at the edge of the tank. He's got a bit of smoke coming out behind the smokestack, and it cost about $10 to do. It is that kind of ingenuity that is real filmmaking to me." Derek came up with such simple solutions. One of the most significant challenges was balancing the film's ambition with its budget. The production team had to be inventive, often using creative solutions to depict complex scenes. This constraint led to innovative techniques in both visual effects and storytelling, setting The Land That Time Forgot apart from other low-budget films of its time. Connor later recalled, "Some of the effects look a little bit creaky, like the visible wires holding up the pterodactyls, because we didn't have the technology to take them out. But at the time, that's how these people made those films, as cheaply and effectively as possible. The people I was working with, a lot of them were working in the industry before the Second World War, so they'd been brought up on how to do things in this fashion. Back then, that's how you made films work. I got the leftovers of it, if you like, it being towards the end of that period." Upon its release, The Land That Time Forgot received mixed reviews. However, it quickly gained a cult following. The film inspired a wave of similar adventure and science fiction films in the 1970s and has remained a beloved classic among genre enthusiasts. At the Earth's Core, 1976. At the Earth's Core was an adaptation of Edgar Rice Burroughs' classic science fiction novel. The novel, part of Burroughs' Pellucidar series, is known for its imaginative portrayal of a prehistoric world inside the Earth. The challenge for the filmmakers was to translate this vibrant and otherworldly landscape, filled with bizarre creatures and primitive civilizations, to the big screen. Director Kevin Connor, fresh from his success with The Land That Time Forgot, was again at the helm. Faced with the daunting task of visualizing the world of Pellucidar, Connor decided to go all the way back to the dawn of cinema and use many of the same VFX pioneered by Georges Méliès, giving the film a timeless look. Concerning the VFX, Connor recalled, "We had Maurice Carter on that picture who experimented with the monsters. We created them so we could put stuntmen inside the suits to make them move more smoothly. There are things about being inside a studio that you have access to that you don't have when on location. I can't recall the budget on Core, probably $300,000? We had a lot of fire in that. We did have some small explosions on the set. We had those bubbling eggs blowing up in the bottom of the cauldron that covered the soundstage floors in goo. Doug McClure was back as David Innes, along with Peter Cushing, a legendary actor best known for his roles in Hammer horror films, playing Dr. Abner Perry. Caroline Munro, a popular figure in fantasy cinema, was cast as the heroine Dia, adding glamour to the film. Apparently, the chemistry between McClure and Cushing off-screen was as strong as it was on-screen, contributing to their believable performances. Concerning Peter Cushing, Connor had this to say: "Peter was the English gentleman personified. He was in my first film, From Beyond the Grave, 1974, a really wonderful guy to work with. It's my first movie, and here's Cushing, who's worked with Orson Welles. He treated me very well with great respect, and added a great deal to the film with his quips and lines he came up with. Anyway, we got on very well, and towards the end of filming he came up to me and said, 'I've got a present for you, dear boy.' He handed me this box, and inside was this model railway station he'd made for my son. That was one of the charming things that Peter did, but he was truly an English gentleman in every sense of the word." The production design of At the Earth's Core was a significant undertaking. The film needed to create an entire world within the Earth, complete with its own flora, fauna, and civilizations. The sets were constructed at Pinewood Studios with intricate designs that brought the underground world to life. These included massive caves, prehistoric jungles, and the eerie city of the Mahars, the telepathic bird-like creatures that dominated the inner world. Special effects in the 1970s were far from the uninspired digital effects of today. The creatures, such as the giant fire-breathing frog and the Mahars, were all brought to life through a mix of suitmation, animatronics, and puppetry. The film also used a lot of rear projection and matte paintings to extend the sets and create the illusion of a vast underground landscape. Action sequences in the movie, particularly those involving the monstrous creatures, needed careful choreography. The combination of live-action puppetry and special effects demanded precise timing and coordination. Unlike modern films, fight sequences and stunts were dangerous in the 1970s, and stuntmen had their own fan followings. At the Earth's Core also received mixed reviews from critics. However, the film found a dedicated audience, particularly among science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts, ensuring that Amicus and Kevin Connor would return for another voyage into the worlds of Edgar Rice Burroughs. The People That Time Forgot, 1977. The People That Time Forgot was a sequel to the 1975 film The Land That Time Forgot, adapted from Edgar Rice Burroughs' 1918 novel of the same name. The film's journey from page to screen is a fascinating tale of creative adaptation and filmmaking ingenuity. Screenwriter Patrick Tilley faced the challenging task of adapting Burroughs' novel, which itself was a continuation of a previous story. Tilley's script needed to not only honor the source material, but also appeal to contemporary audiences. He skillfully crafted a narrative that balanced the novel's prehistoric wonders with the cinematic flair of the 1970s. The film's visual effects team, led by Derek Meddings, faced the formidable task of bringing dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures to life. Their innovative use of puppetry, animatronics, and scale models played a crucial role in creating the film's immersive prehistoric world. The production team chose the Canary Islands as the primary filming location, offering a landscape that convincingly resembled a prehistoric environment. The rugged terrain and volcanic features of the islands provided a visually stunning and believable backdrop for the film's adventurous plot. The film featured an ensemble cast led by Patrick Wayne, son of legendary actor John Wayne. Wayne portrayed Major Ben McBride, the protagonist on a rescue mission in the uncharted territory. Supporting him were Sarah Douglas as Lady Charlotte Cunningham, a strong-willed woman, and Doug McClure as Bowen Tyler, reprising his role from the previous film. Connor recalled this about Patrick Wayne. Patrick was very good. I'm sure his father had taught him a few things. He was a very serious actor and took what he was doing seriously. Very charming, as you can imagine. There were no sides to him like, I'm John Wayne's son, or any demands about things. He photographed extremely well. A very handsome man and a perfect Edgar Rice Burroughs hero. The costume and set design of The People That Time Forgot played a pivotal role in establishing the film's period authenticity. The costumes designed by Dulcie Midwinter and Maureen Booth reflected the various time periods and cultures represented in the film. The sets, crafted under the watchful eye of production designer Maurice Carter, transported audiences to a world that was both fantastical and believably primitive. Director Kevin Connor balanced the demands of action sequences, special effects, and character development. Connor succeeded in creating a cohesive and entertaining film that stood out in the science fiction and fantasy landscape of the 70s. The People That Time Forgot was released into a vastly different landscape than At the Earth's Core. Star Wars set a new standard for mainstream genre movies, and the Amicus production seemed old-fashioned by comparison. The writing was on the wall, but Connor wasn't ready to throw in the towel yet. Warlords of Atlantis, 1978. Warlords of Atlantis stands as the end of an era of genre fandom that began in the 19th century with Jules Verne and H.G. Wells. Readers and cinema audiences were becoming more demanding, and the sincere retro entertainment of the Amicus production seemed out of step with the time. Amicus ceased to exist in 1977, so Kevin Connor and his producer, John Dark, sought funding from other sources, and saw it as an opportunity to go for broke, commissioning an original sci-fi screenplay that had all the old elements of classic pulp adventure and early science fiction. Screenwriter Brian Hales did his best to merge the allure of oceanic adventure with the mystique of lost civilizations. Connor recalled later, "That was when we decided not to make any more Burroughs adaptations and turned to creating our own story. The art direction drew inspiration from various mythological and historical sources, creating a unique aesthetic that combined elements of ancient Greek and Egyptian cultures with a touch of what would come to be known as steampunk. Doug McClure was back in the lead role of Greg Collinson, a rough and ready adventurer and precursor to Indiana Jones. The supporting cast, including Peter Gilmore and Sid Charisse, were selected for their ability to bring depth to the high-adventure style of storytelling. The cast also included John Ratzenberger of Cheers fame, who also appeared in The Empire Strikes Back. The main characters were developed to be more than just archetypes, with each having a distinct personality and backstory that contributed to the film's depth. Filming Warlords of Atlantis posed significant challenges, especially the underwater sequences. The production team utilized large water tanks and specialized camera equipment to capture the undersea world realistically. The special effects in Warlords of Atlantis were a highlight, showcasing the ingenuity of effects artists before the era of CGI. Miniatures and puppets were meticulously crafted. The sets were elaborate, with the Atlantis set being particularly impressive. Regarding Roger Dicken, VFX supervisor, Connor recalled, "Roger was a fantastic modeler. He was very dedicated to his job and extremely proud of his work. His dinosaurs and creatures were just puppets. You had 3 or 4 people operating each one. The sea creatures were just hand puppets, all very creative and good fun." In post-production, the visual effects team worked diligently to enhance the film with additional effects. This included matte paintings for expansive landscape shots and compositing for scenes where actors interacted with large-scale models or creatures. The meticulous attention to detail in post-production ensured that the final product was seamless and visually striking. Warlords of Atlantis was released to a largely indifferent audience that had come to expect films like Jaws, Star Wars, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Superman the Movie. time had passed Kevin Conner's brand of family-friendly, old-school adventure yarns by. Conner would mount one more genre movie with the same team, The Arabian Adventure, in 1979, but Warlords of Atlantis marked the end of a brand of science fiction that would never be popular again. In retrospect, Conner had this to say about his science fiction and fantasy films of the 1970s. They were good fun to make, and made for next to nothing, something like $300,000, maybe a bit more for some of them. They were made with low budgets and inexpensive cast, and dear old Doug McClure. You gotta go for it. If you fail, you fail, but at least you had to go at it. For me, directing is the best job in the world.